The crystal chandelier cast fractured rainbows across the marble foyer. But 7-year-old Emma Hartwell couldn't hear the tinkling sounds it made when the breeze from the open door set it swaying. She sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, her silk dress pooled around her like a lavender cloud, watching the light dance in complete silence. Her world had always been quiet, not peaceful quiet, but the kind of quiet that came from locked doors you couldn't open no matter how hard you tried. Victoria Hartwell stood at the top of the grand staircase, her perfectly manicured hand gripping the banister as she watched her daughter. Even from this distance, she could see Emma tracing patterns in the air, following the light with her small fingers. Victoria's throat tightened. All the money in the world, every single dollar of the Hartwell fortune, and she couldn't buy her daughter the one thing she desperately wanted to give her: sound. The doctors had been unanimous. Emma's deafness was profound, permanent, irreversible. They'd used words like cochlear damage and genetic malformation, their clinical terminology doing nothing to soften the blow. Victoria had taken Emma to specialists in New York, London, Tokyo, and Zurich. Each visit ended the same way, with sympathetic smiles, hefty bills, and the same devastating conclusion. The best hearing aids money could buy sat in Emma's drawer, unused. They amplified nothing because there was nothing to amplify. Victoria had nearly bankrupted, herself emotionally trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. She'd learned sign language, hired the best speech therapists, enrolled Emma in an exclusive school for deaf children. She told herself she'd accepted it, but late at night, when she passed Emma's room and saw her daughter sleeping with her hand pressed against the wall, trying to feel the vibrations of a world she couldn't hear, Victoria's heart shattered all over again. That's when Marcus Webb entered their lives. Though entered seemed too grand a word for someone who'd always been there, invisible in plain sight. Marcus had been the night janitor at Hartwell Tower for 3 years. He was the kind of man people looked through rather than at. Average height, weathered hands gray threading through his dark hair, wearing the same navy blue maintenance uniform every shift. He mopped floors after everyone went home, emptied trash cans, and made sure the building gleamed before the executives arrived each morning. The Hartwells lived in the penthouse above the corporate offices, and sometimes Marcus's duties brought him to their residence level. But he'd never exchanged more than a polite nod with Victoria or her daughter, until the night everything changed. It was nearly midnight when Marcus stepped off the service elevator onto the Hartwell residence floor. He'd noticed Mrs. Hartwell sitting in the darkened hallway outside her daughter's room, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Marcus knew he should probably turn around, take the stairs to a different floor, give her privacy. But something in the set of her shoulders, the particular slope of defeat, stopped him. "Mrs. Hartwell?" His voice was quiet, respectful. "Is everything all right?" Victoria looked up, hastily wiping her eyes, clearly embarrassed to be caught in such a vulnerable moment by the janitor. "Yes, I'm fine. She gestured vaguely toward Emma's room. "It's been a difficult day." Marcus nodded slowly, making no move to leave. "Your daughter? Emma, right? She's deaf?" Victoria stiffened slightly. That protective instinct that all mothers have when strangers mention their children. "Yes, she was born that way." "I know a thing or two about that," Marcus said softly. "My son, he passed away 4 years ago. He was deaf too." The air between them shifted. Victoria saw Marcus differently then, not as the invisible janitor, but as a father who understood her pain in a way that none of the high-priced specialists ever could. "I'm so sorry," Victoria whispered. "I didn't know. No reason you would." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, closing his fist around it. Would it be okay if I tried something with Emma? It's unconventional, but—" "We've tried everything," Victoria interrupted, her voice brittle with old hope that had been disappointed too many times. "Every treatment, every specialist. Nothing works." "This isn't a treatment," Marcus said. "It's just something that helped my boy connect with the world. It won't cure her, Mrs. Hartwell, but it might give her something she doesn't have right now." There was something in his eyes, a gentle certainty, that had nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with understanding. Victoria found herself standing, opening Emma's door. Emma was awake, sitting up in bed with a picture book open on her lap, though she wasn't reading. She looked at her mother, then at the janitor, her dark eyes curious but not afraid. Marcus knelt beside her bed, moving slowly, respectfully, waiting for Emma's permission before coming closer. He opened his hand, and Victoria leaned in to see what he held. It was a small, smooth stone, no bigger than a quarter, threaded on a simple leather cord. Victoria's heart sank. After all that build-up, this was what he wanted to show her daughter. A rock on a string? She opened her mouth to politely ask him to leave, but Marcus was already signing to Emma in fluid, practiced motions. Emma's face lit up. She signed back, her small hands moving rapidly, excitedly. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile. Victoria had seen from him and placed the stone in Emma's palm, curling her fingers around it. The sound was low, resonant, and as he hummed, he pressed Emma's closed fist, the one holding the stone, against his chest. Right over his heart. Emma's eyes went wide. Marcus kept humming, and Victoria watched her daughter's face transform. Emma opened her hand, looking at the stone in wonder, then pressed it against her own chest. Her mouth formed a small O of surprise. "It's a singing stone," Marcus signed to Emma, speaking aloud simultaneously for Victoria's benefit. "It doesn't make you hear like other people hear, but it vibrates with sound. When someone sings or talks, if you hold it close, you can feel the music." Emma pressed the stone against different parts of her body, her throat, her chest, her forehead. Each time, her expression showed amazement at the subtle vibrations she could feel. Marcus began to hum different notes, low, high rhythmic patterns, and Emma giggled, a sound Victoria had rarely heard from her daughter. "Where did you get this?" Victoria asked, her voice thick with emotion. "I made it," Marcus said simply. "For my son, Caleb. When he was about Emma's age, he told me he felt left out. He could see people's mouths moving, could watch them laugh and sing, but he couldn't participate. This stone, its special quartz actually very responsive to vibration. I fashioned it and tuned it. It became Caleb's connection to music, to rhythm, to the feeling of sound. But this must be precious to you," Victoria said. "Your son's stone." Marcus's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Caleb would have wanted another kid to have it. He was like that, always thinking of others. Before he died, he told me he wanted to help other deaf children feel less alone. "I've been carrying this for 4 years, waiting to meet someone who needed it." Emma was already experimenting, pressing the stone against her mother's throat and asking Victoria to talk. When Victoria spoke, Emma's face broke into the widest smile Victoria had seen in years. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. The stone didn't cure Emma's deafness, nothing. Could do that, but it opened a door she didn't know existed. She began asking her mother to sing to her, feeling the vibrations of lullabies through the stone. She brought it to her music therapy sessions, where she could feel the rhythm of drums and bass notes. She wore it to school and made friends gather around while they hummed together, Emma laughing at the different patterns she felt. But more than that, Emma gained something intangible. She stopped seeing her deafness as a locked door. She started seeing it as a different way of experiencing the world.